Space is no longer science fiction. It is becoming one of the most important economic frontiers of the next decade, and the moment SpaceX goes public, billions of dollars are going to flood into anything remotely connected to this industry. In this video, I am going to show you 3 stocks you can buy right now that are already positioned inside this ecosystem, with real revenue, real technology, and the potential to benefit before that wave of capital hits. These are businesses building critical infrastructure, controlling data pipelines, and enabling industries that will define the future of communications, defense, and global intelligence. And if you understand where the money flows before the crowd does, that is where the real opportunity is. Let's get into the first stock. The first company is Rocket Lab, ticker symbol RKLB. Now, before we even touch the numbers, you need to understand why Rocket Lab matters in this space. This is not just a launch company, this is a vertically integrated space systems company. And that distinction is critical, because the future of the space economy is not just about launching rockets, it is about controlling the entire value chain. Launch, satellite manufacturing, space systems, mission services, and Rocket Lab is building capabilities across all of those layers. Now here is the key insight. In any emerging industry, the companies that win long-term are the ones that control multiple points of the ecosystem, not just one. And Rocket Lab is positioning itself exactly in that direction. Now let's talk about what makes this business defensible. First, launch capability. Rocket Lab has already proven it can reliably launch payloads into orbit with its Electron rocket. This is not theoretical. This is operational. And in space, execution matters more than hype, because reliability is everything. Now here is where it gets interesting. The company is also developing its next-generation Neutron rocket, which is designed to handle larger payloads and compete in a much bigger segment of the launch market. That is a major step up, because it expands the company's total addressable market significantly. Now let's go deeper. Rocket Lab is not just relying on launch revenue, it is generating revenue from space systems, which includes satellite components, manufacturing, and mission support. And this is extremely important, because launch is episodic, it happens in cycles. But space systems create recurring revenue opportunities. That gives the business more stability, and more stability means less risk. Most investors think space investing is binary. They think it is either boom or bust. But the reality is that companies like Rocket Lab are building diversified revenue streams that reduce that binary risk. Now let's talk numbers. The article highlights that Rocket Lab has been growing its revenue steadily, driven by both launch services and its expanding space systems segment. This is not a company waiting for the future, it is already generating business today. And that matters, because speculative companies rely on future expectations. But companies with real revenue can actually execute through cycles. Now here is something you need to understand clearly. The space industry is not just about exploration. It is about infrastructure. Satellites power communication, they enable GPS, they support defense systems, they provide Earth observation data, and all of that requires launch capability. That is where Rocket Lab fits in. It is part of the backbone. Now let's talk about the moat. Rocket Lab has built expertise, technology, and operational experience that is not easy to replicate. Launching rockets is one of the most complex engineering challenges in the world, and once a company proves reliability, it builds trust. That trust leads to contracts, and contracts lead to recurring revenue. In emerging industries, the companies that survive are not always the biggest. They are the ones that execute consistently, and Rocket Lab has shown it can execute. Now let's talk about long-term positioning. As demand for satellite deployment increases, companies that can provide reliable, cost-effective launch solutions will benefit. And Rocket Lab is targeting exactly that niche. Smaller payloads, frequent launches, flexible missions. That is a growing segment. Now here is something most investors overlook. Rocket Lab is also positioning itself as a space infrastructure company, not just a launch provider. That means it is thinking beyond rockets. It is thinking about systems, and systems create recurring revenue. Now let's bring this together. You have a company with proven launch capability. You have expanding revenue streams through space systems. You have a next-generation rocket that increases market opportunity. And you have positioning in one of the fastest-growing industries in the world. That is a compelling setup. But here is the question you should be asking. Is this still early? Because the biggest gains in emerging industries happen before the mainstream attention arrives, and that is exactly where we are right now. Now, before we move on to the second stock, think about this. If SpaceX goes public, it will validate the entire space sector in the eyes of institutional investors, and when that happens, capital does not just flow into one company, it flows into the entire ecosystem. That is where positioning early matters. Now, here is something important before we continue. If this resonates with you, you're exactly who this channel is for. People who are ready to stop losing money in the market and take their investment portfolio to the next level. Hit the like button, share the video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next important financial investing update. Remember to do your own research before you invest in any stock. Now, the second company we are about to break down operates in a completely different part of the space economy, and it controls something even more valuable than rockets. The second stock is 𝗗𝗚𝗧, ticker symbol SATS. Now this is where things shift from physical infrastructure to something even more powerful, connectivity, because in the space economy, launching satellites is only one piece of the puzzle. The real value is what those satellites enable: communication, data transmission, global connectivity, and that is exactly where 𝗗𝗚𝗧 operates. Now here is the key insight most investors miss. Owning the infrastructure that delivers connectivity is often more valuable than the infrastructure that launches it, because connectivity is continuous. It is not event-based. It does not depend on launches or contracts that happen occasionally. It operates every single day. That creates recurring revenue. That creates stability, and that creates long-term compounding potential. Now let's break this down. 𝗗𝗚𝗧 operates in satellite communication and wireless services, providing connectivity solutions across multiple markets. This includes broadband services, enterprise solutions, and global communication infrastructure. And in a world that is becoming increasingly connected, that demand is only going to grow. Now think about this for a second. Billions of people around the world still lack reliable internet access. Entire regions depend on satellite connectivity. And even in developed markets, satellite systems provide redundancy, coverage, and specialized services that traditional networks cannot fully replace. That is a massive opportunity. Now here is where it gets interesting. According to the article, 𝗗𝗚𝗧 is positioned to benefit from increasing demand for satellite-based communication services, especially as global data consumption continues to rise. This is not a short-term trend, this is a structural shift. More devices, more data, more connectivity, and satellite networks play a critical role in enabling all of that. Now let's talk about the business model. 𝗗𝗚𝗧 generates revenue through subscription-based services and long-term contracts. That means recurring income. And recurring income is what gives companies resilience during uncertain periods. Because unlike one-time sales, subscriptions provide visibility. You can forecast revenue, you can plan investments, you can manage risk more effectively. Now consider this: if SpaceX goes public, it will bring massive attention to the satellite and connectivity space. But companies like 𝗗𝗚𝗧 are already operating within that ecosystem. They are already generating revenue. They are already serving customers. That is where the advantage comes in. You are not betting on what might happen. You are investing in what is already happening. Now let's talk about something that often gets overlooked: spectrum. 𝗗𝗚𝗧 controls valuable wireless spectrum assets. And in the world of telecommunications, spectrum is one of the most valuable resources. Because it is limited, and it is essential for delivering wireless services. That creates a strategic advantage. Because companies that control spectrum have leverage. They can build networks, they can partner with other companies, they can monetize that asset in multiple ways. Now think about how this ties into the future. As demand for wireless connectivity increases, spectrum becomes even more valuable, and companies that own it are positioned to benefit. Now let's step back and look at the bigger picture. You have Rocket Lab building launch and space systems infrastructure. And now you have 𝗗𝗚𝗧 delivering connectivity and communication services through satellite networks. Two different layers of the same ecosystem, and both are essential. Now here is something you need to understand. The space economy is not one industry. It is a stack: launch, satellites, data, connectivity, applications. And the companies that operate at different levels of that stack can all benefit as the industry grows. Now let's go deeper into financial relevance. The article highlights that 𝗗𝗚𝗧 continues to operate with a focus on expanding its connectivity services and leveraging its assets to drive long-term growth. This is not a company chasing trends, it is positioning itself within a growing market. And positioning matters. Because in investing, being early is not enough. You need to be early in the right place. Now think about investor behavior again. When a major event like a SpaceX IPO happens, capital flows quickly. Investors look for related opportunities. They look for companies that are already part of that ecosystem, and they allocate capital accordingly. That is where 𝗗𝗚𝗧 comes in. It is not the headline story, but it is part of the infrastructure behind the story. And sometimes those are the best opportunities. Now let's bring this together. You have a company operating in satellite communications. You have recurring revenue through subscriptions and contracts. You have valuable spectrum assets. And you have positioning within a rapidly growing global connectivity market. That is a strong foundation. Now here is the real question. Do you want to invest in the obvious story after it becomes popular? Or do you want to position yourself in the infrastructure before the crowd arrives? Because those are two very different strategies. Now, before we move on to the third and final stock, I want to share something with you. This video is brought to you by Value Stocks Investing Master Course. If you're looking to grow your wealth by investing in solid, undervalued stocks but not sure where to start, I created the Value Stocks Investing Master Course to teach you how to identify great companies, make smart investment decisions, and build a portfolio that lasts. Click the link in the description and pinned comments to get the course today and take control of your financial future. Now, the third company we are about to break down controls something that is becoming more valuable than oil in the modern economy: data. And not just any data, global, real-time, high-resolution data about the planet itself. The third stock is Planet Labs, ticker symbol PL. Now this is where the entire space investment thesis starts to come together, because if Rocket Lab is about launching infrastructure, and EchoStar is about delivering connectivity, then Planet Labs is about what all of that infrastructure is ultimately used for: data, and not just any data. Planet Labs operates one of the largest fleets of Earth imaging satellites in orbit, capturing continuous high-resolution images of the planet, every day, at scale. Now here is the key insight. The future of the space economy is not just about getting into space, it is about what you do once you are there. And the most valuable output is data, because data drives decisions. Governments rely on it, defense systems rely on it, agriculture relies on it, energy companies rely on it, disaster response relies on it, and that demand is only increasing. Now let's break down why this business matters. Planet Labs provides geospatial intelligence. That means it is not just taking pictures, it is delivering actionable insights, monitoring crop health, tracking supply chains, observing environmental changes, analyzing infrastructure. This is mission-critical information, and mission-critical services create strong demand. Now here is where it becomes powerful from an investment perspective. Planet Labs generates revenue through subscription-based data services. That means recurring revenue, and recurring revenue creates predictability. You are not relying on one-time sales. You are building long-term customer relationships. That is exactly what you want in a growing industry. Now think about how this scales. Once the satellites are in orbit, the marginal cost of delivering additional data is relatively low, but the value of that data remains high. That creates operating leverage. And operating leverage is one of the most powerful drivers of long-term profitability. Now here is something most investors underestimate. Planet Labs is building a dataset that becomes more valuable over time. Because historical data matters, trends matter, patterns matter. The more data you collect, the more insights you can generate. And that creates a compounding advantage. Now consider this. If a government agency or a large enterprise builds its operations around Planet Labs data, switching becomes difficult. There is integration. There is reliance, there is trust, and that creates stickiness, and stickiness creates recurring revenue. Now let's connect this back to the bigger picture. If SpaceX goes public, it will bring massive attention to the space economy. Investors will start looking for companies that are already generating value within that ecosystem, and Planet Labs fits that perfectly, because it is already monetizing space-based data. Now let's go deeper into growth potential. The demand for geospatial intelligence is expanding across multiple industries: climate monitoring, national security, supply chain optimization, urban planning. This is not a niche market, this is a broad growing demand base, and Planet Labs is positioned right in the middle of it. Now here is something important to understand. The value of data increases as the world becomes more complex, more variables, more uncertainty, more need for real-time information, and that plays directly into Planet Labs' strengths. Now let's take a step back and look at everything together. You have Rocket Lab providing launch and space systems infrastructure. You have EchoStar delivering satellite-based connectivity. And you have Planet Labs generating data and insights from space. 3 different companies, 3 different layers of the same ecosystem, and all of them benefit from the same macro trend: the expansion of the space economy. Now here is the real takeaway. When a major event like a SpaceX IPO happens, it does not just create opportunity in one stock, it creates opportunity across the entire ecosystem. And the companies that are already operating within that ecosystem are often the biggest beneficiaries. Because they are already positioned. They are already executing. They are already generating value. Now here is the question you need to ask yourself. Which part of the space economy do you believe has the strongest long-term advantage? Is it the infrastructure layer with Rocket Lab? Is it the connectivity layer with EchoStar? Or is it the data layer with Planet Labs? Because your answer determines how you position your portfolio, and positioning is everything. Now let's bring this home. The biggest opportunities in investing rarely come when something is obvious. They come before the crowd fully understands what is happening. Right now, the space economy is still early, still evolving, still underappreciated by many investors. But that is exactly what creates opportunity. Because once the narrative becomes mainstream, the easy gains are already gone. Now here is the final idea you need to think about. You are not just investing in companies, you are investing in trends. And the trend here is clear. Space is becoming a critical part of the global economy. And the companies enabling that transformation are building the infrastructure, connectivity, and data systems that will define the future. If you want exclusive stock tips, in-depth analysis, real-time trade alerts, and free investing guides, join the Stocks Galore Patreon today and take your investing game to the next level. Our members get full in-depth analysis on most of the stocks mentioned here. Head over to patreon.com/StocksGalore and become part of our growing community of smart investors. Link is in the description. Do not forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you do not miss the next important investing update. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.